Good morning and welcome to Ag Talk and Raw, Sunday edition. But it's not Sunday, it's Monday because I was pretty damn busy yesterday and I just didn't get a chance to record this and get it up on the channel. Anyways, these are uncut and unedited, so as things happen here in the house, that's just the way it works. Like Teresa, Miss Teresa, she's such a lovely girl. She's bringing me up this coffee. What do you think, Teresa? You in those Daisy Duke shorty shorts so everybody watches? Look at that. I'll even move out of the way. Yeah, so that's life in the Pandy household here. Let me get a sip of this coffee in. It's actually not early. There goes the cat. Hey, the cat. Daisy, what are you doing, you fat cat? Anyway, I'm not really sure what we're going to talk about other than the weather and future plans on planting. And, weather right now is probably the same as it is in your area. Just huge swings. We haven't had any snow really to speak of. The most we've had is like 3.5, 4 inches. We've put on enough salt in the county, state to melt snow that it was 4 feet thick, deep or whatnot, obviously. The snowplow guy is targeting my mailbox every time we get a little bit of snow. The guy jumps the curb right about, 100 feet down below my mailbox, rides the curb, and then plows into the damn thing. Took out the neighbor's mailbox first, bent mine, and then secondly, the next snow event, they nailed it. And I think it's because of the salt video on One Lonely Farmer, my other channel. You can check that out if you haven't seen it. But anyways, just these huge weather swings. We've gone from 0 degrees to, and I know there's a lot of guys in the country like, 0, that's summer weather. Well, it's not. For here, it's pretty cold. And it went on for weeks. It just seemed like while I was putting that John Deere tractor together, that 4010 engine together, it was just brutal. Running those heaters just to stay warm enough that my hands didn't freeze while I was working on that engine block, because the engine block, we're warming up the engine block so that I didn't freeze. And, and then 2 days later, it turns into 65-degree weather. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. All right, so, I'm hoping that, that it either just turns cold and stays cold or starts to, just normalizes is all I can say is normalizes. And now it's pretty muddy out there. I can't even bring hay in from other farms, so we're loading up out of the home farm there. What was it, day before yesterday, it was frozen enough that we went and grabbed a couple loads. And the day before that, I guess Saturday Saturday it was, was that Saturday? No, it was Friday and Saturday we brought some hay home, but nothing spectacular. Just got greasy on top, and that was it. So anyways, I'm going to answer some of these questions here that are not repetitive. There's always repeat answers, and I understand that, there's always new people coming to the channel and new people that have been on One Lonely Farmer and just have clicked on the link and you're asking the same questions over and over again, and you may feel like I'm not answering your questions, but they are answered in other videos as, from way back or back in recent times. So, first question is, what's the next project you'll be working on after the 4010 is done? Well, the 4010 is pretty well done. I'm waiting for a radiator and a pump, and I may even go get those today. I'm not sure. I have to go make some calls. But the 4960 is the next project. And I will finish that. I will have that probably ripped apart and put back together before the 4010 is painted and everything. So the 4010 will run. It'll run right now. I just have not started it. Not yet, anyway. Why am I putting the loader on the 8120 instead of the 7530? Well, my dad's getting older. He'll be 70 here coming up. And it's hard for him to get in and out of the 7530, believe it or not. And he wants to put that dog in that 7530, and I'm not having dogs in my 7530. The 8120 is a bigger tractor, easier to handle, will haul more weight, stop more load of hay. It's just a better tractor to put that on. So that's why I'm going to do that. Is the engine in 5020 still the same one you put back in 2009? Well, yes. It's not like you have to change engines every 10 minutes. Wes, you make it seem like the world is going to go to shit pretty quick. Um, it's not getting any better. In the ag market. As a matter of fact, the ag market is tanking. Maybe the rest of the world is, the rest of the country. When I say world, I mean country. The rest of our country seems to be picking up. I see there's a paper mill that's been abandoned since the mid 90s. It's been abandoned since the mid 90s, and they're actually looks like they're going to start firing it up again. It's finished product, not they cut paper there. They don't actually make paper there, but it's a paper mill where they cut and make different types of paper. But agriculture, if you're in the dairy market and you're not milking 25,000 cows, you're losing money. I swear to God, these huge mega dairies that are owned by corporations are going to put the little guy out. I'm not the only one thinking this. I'm not the only one saying this. I'm not the only one that believes this. And I'm not the only one that knows that is the true, honest God fact. It's the same thing in corn and soybeans. You can look at my friends out in Wisconsin, how farms work. They would like to grow more grain. The only way that they can do that is to pick up more ground, just like everybody else is trying to do, because the profit margins are so thin that, the more you have, the higher the profit. Now, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here. We're talking thousands, just a few $1,000s per 100 acres, a few $100s per 100 acres. By the time you get done paying a 300 plus an acre dollar rent, and then having under basis crops and everything else going up, like equipment, fuel, electricity, hourly work rates, and everything is going up. That is definitely impacting the smaller farms. So everything, you're either going to get big or go home, or go work for the guy that's big. That's just the way it is, and it's been heading that direction since, I would have to say, since the late 60s, since the higher horsepower tractors started coming onto the scene. And and then there was like a lull in horsepower. It hit that 200 horsepower mark back, unless you were running articulates. So is it going to shit? No. You just have to keep expanding, and I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's the right way to do it. As I've gone away from diversification into a specialized agricultural field, I feel a little bit of the sting if something bad happens. Just like anybody else, I'd rather be growing 5 different things, from cattle to mulch hay, to alfalfa clover, corn, soybeans, wheat. It would be nice to do all those things, but it's funny when 2 of those 3 things or 5 things are dragging you down. You just kind of got to push those aside, and then now you're down to 3 things or 5 things, and then chickens, they start getting shitty, and then you just got to get rid of those, and then before you know it, all your animals are gone, and you're growing corn and soybeans, and they're charging you up the ass to haul it, so you're down to 1 thing, and that's where I am. Yeah. Anyways, let's see what we got here. Almost time for Gold Rush. Yeah, that show frustrates me frustrates all couch dwelling miners. It does. I would agree to that. But the funny thing about Gold Rush is that they're not actually showing everything that's going on. That's a funny thing. Oh, we didn't have any gold this week, but yet they're still buying diesel fuel, paying their rent, and mining. Money runs out when you're not making it. If you're not yanking gold out of the ground, just like making hay. I'm selling hay as I'm making it. If I wasn't selling hay as I was making it, I'd be going broke. So it's the same thing with the gold. When you see Parker Schnabel, he's got 25 jars of gold that are filled, just spilling over, and he says, well, we only made 5,000 ounces. Well, okay, it's a lot. Same thing with hay. Corn, soybean, same thing. All right, Timmy Cornpicker, my neighbor, he says, there are people spending lots of money and effort clearing woodlots, tree lines, so they can plant there and put even more bushels on the market, which is the truth. Yeah, there's when I drove out to, God, this has been a few years ago. I went out and picked up I was in Wisconsin. They were pushing out all the pulpwood was getting burned. They were not making paper from it, which blows my mind. I mean, if you're going to burn pulp wood in the pulp mills to make paper, and this is a Wisconsin product, to grow corn, what did you think was going to happen? Yeah, the price of corn, soybeans, it's gone down. Price of pulpwood and paper products are going to go up. And that was the whole thing with computers. They were supposed to replace paper. You know, these little things here, these little potato chips, as I call them. Or, where in the heck, there's a couple of others in here. There's one. Things like this. This was supposed to replace paper. It hasn't. Actually, there's backup copies of paper in huge warehouses full of paper, you know, to back up the stuff, your potato chips and other memory cards. So, you know, one turns into another. Now in 4 or 5 years, the pulp mills are going to be like, we need to open up and make more paper, and it's all grain, and then it'll go the other way. Oh, let's see. Hasn't the leasing deal started to go away since dealers are getting stuck with too much equipment that they can't get rid of? How are dealerships doing in my area? Well, the dealerships that went out are still out. There are no new ones popping up. I don't see that there's an overabundance of equipment on the lots close to me. They tried to lease me. What did they try to lease me? 6215R a few years ago. They're like, oh yeah, it's like, you know, gave me the price of it, and I'm like, yeah, but if I buy it, it's, you know, it'll be the same price, and I'll have it in the end. Yes, but you won't have a warranty. That kind of cracked me up, but yeah. All right, what do you do with broken bales at your storage yard? For the most part, we just push them up on a pile. I have been known to take some slices and put them in between the bales, you know, and stack it on, but it makes an unstable load. So other times I've rebaled them. So rebaling hay sucks, if you didn't know. And deer damage has gone up here in Pennsylvania too. Wasn't this bad when I was a kid. Now, if you think you've got a deer problem, it's too late. You already have one. So, you know. Wes, CRP. Okay, CRP stands for the Conservation Reserve Program. It is they also set aside acres, you know, set aside CRP. What it was designed for was not what they're using it for now, but it was designed to control price because certain areas, you know, the government would actually basically pay the property owner rent to not do anything, but you're still responsible to keep it maintained, brush hog it, and everything else. And they have you know, the first go round, it's a 10-year program with an extension, I think, of 2 or 3 years. You can extend it on that rental rate or that payout rate. It used to just be to control grain price, you know. So if corn dropped below a certain amount of a certain price, the government would pay you, you know, on loan or DCP, direct and countercyclical payments. This was years ago. They don't do it anymore, from what I understand, because I'm not in the government programs anymore. But Conservation Reserve Program was to basically take that ground out of production so that there was an abundance of corn, soybeans, wheat, barley, rye, whatever you're producing on that ground. It did have to be planted into a grassland crop. Now, when it started out, it was orchard grass, timothy. It was a blend of 3 different grasses: brome, timothy, and orchard. And you were to mow it. You couldn't make it into hay unless there was a drought. If there was a major drought, then the government would release that ground for hay production for animals, which I've only seen once, and it was so limited it was a waste of time, because there are some CRP ground acres around. And you know, they're gone now, and it's into mulch hay production, and yay, I'm the guy that got to do it. But yeah, Why is it okay to let your landlord put everything into CRP and then go for broke? Get a town job? The landlord can do whatever he wants with his or her land. That's their business. If the government, which is not allowed to compete with private enterprise, which they do on a daily basis anyway, if the landlord says, you know what, I'm going to put my ground into CRP because the farmer's not farming it quite the way I want them to farm it, or they're not maintaining waterways, they're not maintaining, terraces, they're silting in my pond and things like that. That's their right. It's their land. If they want to put it into CRP, that's their prerogative. Yeah, if enough ground goes into CRP and then it puts a demand on the grain market, which if it's done correctly the way it was set up to do, yeah, it would be that way. But there was a few years back in the 90s where the CRP ground was actually released to grow grain because there wasn't enough corn. Corn hit $5. It hadn't been at $5 since the 1970s. So it was about 95. Corn was $5. We called it yellow gold, yellow gold. It was yellow gold. We were selling for $5 and some odd cents a bushel. Milk had hit $18. We were doing really well. And then, of course, the CRP got released, and bam, everybody slammed corn in. Now, if you don't understand the advances in corn varieties and soybean varieties, back when I was a kid, if you got 30 bushels to the acre on soybeans, you were doing great. If you got 150 bushels on corn, you were doing phenomenal. Now, if you're getting 30 bushels of beans, you suck as a farmer, and 150 bushels of corn, you're going broke faster than ever. So, even with those CRP acres, it's still the production, the grain varieties or corn and soybean varieties are outdoing the demand. We have a supply. We don't have a demand right now. So and you should understand this a little bit, if there is a demand, price will go up. If there is a supply, price will come down. So when it gets down to the wire, you're getting towards the end of the year and there's still 50 million bushels of corn and 20 million bushels of soybeans still in the tanks. What do you think the price is going to do? You think it's going to go up just because these people have good faith and they want to keep the farmers happy? They don't give a flying fuck about us farmers. They give a damn about one thing. If I had here. They give a damn about this stuff. These things. This is money. This may be a Canadian silver dollar and a U.S. silver dollar, but it's still worth money. It's money. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit that you're going broke on $3 corn or $8 beans. They don't care. All they care about is, hey, we're going to process this and we're going to make way more than we did before because we're the middleman. So if you're in agriculture and you've got an idea of producing a product with the product that you're growing, you will become a millionaire because that's just the way the world works. It runs on the dollar. It doesn't run on good faith and helping a farmer out. I think there should be a minimum to farmers, minimum inputs and minimum sale prices, that are reasonable, and it should go off of the annual GDP. So if the annual GDP of the working America is, say, I think it's $72,000 a year here in New Jersey. Don't you think that the farmer should get paid a fair wage also? We can work. I can tell you this, and it's under my own devices that I buy products. John Deere tractors and other things. If I have a pile of cash in my pocket, I'll pay for fertilizer ahead of time so that I'm not paying taxes because that's just the way it works. Why give it to the government to piss down a rat hole when you can put it in on your own fields and produce produce the crop basically for free? Because if you're hoarding the cash and you get down to that 1040 and it's like, oh shit, I made X number of dollars. And I have to write a big fat check out to Uncle Stan for $45,000, or I just say, hey, you know what? I can go down to CPS or Growmark and or any other fertilizer company, and write that same $45,000 check and give it to them to prepay fertilizer, seed, or even tires. I gave it to a guy for tires one year. It's like, oh, I made too much money. I better go buy some tires. And it was like the end of December, right after Christmas, and I was scrambling to get rid of money. Took $65,000 check up to CPS, prepaid my fertilizer for the next year, and I was really quite happy that I had done so because I didn't give it away to Uncle Sam. And then the next year you'll have to do the same thing. Buy an asset, buy a tractor, buy antique tractors. They don't go down in value much. You buy a couple of those. There's still write-offs. Take a trip, take a bunch of pictures, make a calendar, and put it up online for sale. Therefore, your trip is tax deductible. Think about this stuff, guys. CRP is not really a bad thing. It's frustrating, to say the least, and it is, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, unless they decide that it is a wildlife sanctuary, like they have done here in New Jersey. So that's other things, but we're kind of getting off topic here, I think, or I'm moving too slowly. Some days I wonder if it's even worth. So should I just sell my land, turn it into homes? I'll take a lot more money. Yeah, but that money doesn't come back to you. I mean, once you sell your home for housing, you have to pay income tax on that, unless you're buying a farm in another area where it's not so demographically demanding, like they don't need homes. And are you going to be able to live with yourself after you watch your blood, sweat, and tears get bulldozed and houses get erected on it? Maybe, like I said, maybe downsize a little bit, take an off-farm job, realize that farming it is in your blood. And I know many people that have sold the farm, went to town, bought a house, and then wanted to commit suicide. Ended up buying a farm somewhere else because they couldn't stand town living. It's that kind of a thing. Yep. Sorry about the post-nasal drip. It just happens. I'm reading here. So I wouldn't suggest selling your farm for that. If you're ready to pack it in, go work at the fertilizer plant and just do your farm. I mean, there are always other farmers that are willing to buy fertilizer and seed and stuff, or maybe lease out your ground. If you lease your ground out, if you're in one of these high dollar areas where you can get $350, $400 an acre for your ground, and then go hang out at the fertilizer plant. Anytime I go into the fertilizer plant, I'm like, all right, these guys don't make a lot of money working at the fertilizer plant, but they get to see all their friends all the time. You get to do a fairly cushy job. If you're running a bagger, you get these guns. You get built really strong, and if you're just running the blender or even just delivering chemical when you need to, it's a fun job. And then just farm for fun. If you don't want to lease your ground out, then at the end of the day, because what the hell, at 5 o'clock when the fertilizer plant shuts down, you can go home. You still got hours of time. You go out there and you cut 6 rounds around your alfalfa field, and then, that's just the way it works. And then on a Saturday and Sunday, you bail it up and, farm for fun, work for money, farm for fun. That's what a lot of people do around here when they're ready to pack it in, or whether they're just not feeling it. I got a friend of mine, and we won't mention his name, but he loves to farm, but he took an off-farm job just because, he wasn't quite making ends meet. I don't know if he's still working there or not, but I see he's still farming, and I think he's enjoying it a lot more. Yeah. I do need some shirts and hats made for this channel. Ag Talking to Raw. Yeah, I should cover up my bald head with one of those instead of the OLF hat. But this advertises One Lonely Farmer, so we'll do that. We put a lot of ground in CRP, about 300 per acre for 10 years. There are several farmers who lost farm ground in my area due to CRP. Now, just think about this, though. All right, so they lost a lot of ground, and now they're not able to grow as much grain. That should put a little... Could you imagine if they didn't put it into CRP? Suppose they sold it for houses and you never get the chance to farm it again. And the price of grain is being impacted in a positive way by not actually having ground producing corn. That's what the CRP program was designed for, and it did work. It worked. Back in the 1980s is when these programs were devised. The crash of 1981, I think it was 81 or 82, and the crash in the 1980s were devastating. I mean, 90% of the daily farmers in this area, not people that farm on the weekends, I'm talking full-time farmers, they went broke. Dealerships went broke, and that was just it. There was a movie even produced. It was called The River. I saw it once when I was a kid, and my dad, he wouldn't watch it. I was a kid, and I was watching it because it was interesting. It was about a guy, about a farm. The crash was, neighbors all sold off their equipment. He went to work in a mill somewheres, and his buddy, the banker, he was trying to put the moves on his wife. But my dad, he said, "What is this movie?" And he went to bed. And but that was back in the 80s. So that's when these things kind of popped up. Wes, please bring back chicken picking. You want me to bring back my banjo? Well, maybe a little later. You know what? I haven't played it in about a week, so maybe I should probably pull that out. And I haven't played it much in the last year, but I was playing it about a week ago. I was playing it. Farmers will never work together. We'll run up land rent, do more for less, and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and get a premium on any crop. Yes, we're retarded. I mean, that is just the most retarded way of thinking. And the good thing, and maybe it's a good thing and maybe it's a bad thing, is these corporations that are buying up farms. Howard Buffett, all right, he's huge, right? Poet is huge. They're buying up tens of thousands of acres, and they're farming it. So here we go. They're buying all this ground. They do not like losing money. They like maximum return on what they put out. So as these corporations buy up this land and farm it, a lot of mom and pop farms and family farms are going by the wayside. But there is going to come a time when these corporations say, okay, now it's time to put a squeeze on the American people. Or the world, for that matter. Because he who controls the food controls the world. And I don't care who you are. That's just the way it is. Now, these corporations have figured this out. And they're just going along, leasing equipment, selling it back, and then it gets sold to smaller family farms, at a reduced price. And, they're just going along until they get enough. And when they get enough, it's just going to be like this on the world's set of balls. They're going to go... And then you'll see $10 corn, you'll see $20 soybeans, and you'll see small farms that are, farming. You'll see small farmers get bigger, and then there'll be corporations, It's all going to become corporate farms. And that's just the way the world is going to work, And it's a shame, but I see it. And you'll be foolish if you don't see it that way. Like, let's put it this way, Warren Buffett's father, Howard Buffett, or Howard Buffett's father, Warren? Yeah, that's it. Howard Buffett's father, Warren. He bought the railroads. About 10 years ago, he bought the railroads. And they're like, who the fuck buys railroads and why? Have you noticed the cost of shipping anymore? So when you get this very wealthy tycoon who has lots of money, he buys the railroads. And he puts shipping up for everyone. Railroads are doing really well right now. Isn't it an amazing thing? It took somebody that saw that you can't. The price of fuel for trucks, that's an expensive way of hauling stuff. It used to be cheap to do it by rail. So Warren Buffett's making billions of dollars a year on railroads. Howard Buffett is doing the same thing in agriculture. I mean, this guy's farming on 2 continents. He's in South America too. So North America, South America. He's got a farm in South America also. He flies back and forth. He's not doing this for nothing. He's doing this for money. And everybody else is just kind of sitting there holding their balls wondering why is the price of grain and everything so low right now. Well, when you can control it, and they are controlling it, they're producing a nice crop. And they put a strain on us little guys. And when they put enough of a strain on us, with the help from their buddies down in that big old capital called Washington, D.C., put a squeeze on the little guy so that we can buy more and more and more land. Eventually, they'll own 90% of the land in the Midwest and control 90% of the food that is going out. Maybe I'm just talking bullshit. These are my opinions, my thoughts, and please don't say I'm a stupid jackass. I just look at things a little differently than the average person. So anyways, we're at 30 minutes, and holy hell, I can't believe I talked for 30 minutes, but thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out One Lonely Farmer. If you haven't, if you came here from there, or if you're here and you wonder what the hell One Lonely Farmer is, you can go check him out too. It's me, same guy. I'm not trying to be two different people. But anyways, thanks again, and don't forget to subscribe. Get this channel up and rolling.